Hello students, welcome to Zoology Classroom. Let us know about osmoregulation in freshwater animals in today's class. So before entering into the topic, let us understand some concepts. So the first concept is a diffusion. So diffusion is nothing but it is the net movement of molecules or atoms from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. And this diffusion process is a universal process. It occurs in liquids, it occurs in gaseous environments, and also this diffusion occurs in living systems or living organisms also. So in the liquids also, we know that if we add a drop of a coloring liquid to a water bottle or conical flask filled with water, so after some time, we can see that this blue color will be evenly distributed throughout the water body. So the molecules which are present in this coloring agent or coloring material, the molecules, they are high in this area. Later, they are transported to the area where they are low or they are none. So in this way, they are diffusing. So until they reach a homogeneous condition, that means throughout the water bottle, this thing, they are equal in number in all the areas of this liquid bottle. Till then, the diffusion will be continued. So the same thing occurs in this gaseous environments also. When a factory releases a smoke also, the smoke usually gradually it will be diffused into the surrounding environment. And in our homes also, we can find that when we lit agarbattis, the smell or the smoke from the agarbatti will gradually diffuse throughout the room. So that's why only after some time we will feel the smell of that agarbatti. So this is called as diffusion. The same diffusion occurs in living systems also. So in living systems, in previous class, we have seen that there are several types of fluids or liquids in our body. So all these liquids are separated by plasma membranes or plasma membrane like material things. So here this plasma membrane is separating the cytoplasm and extracellular fluid. So as the two liquids are separated by a plasma membrane, and the plasma membrane is semi-permeable, so it allows many of the molecules to pass through it, so that the molecules or the atoms, they usually the ions, they will travel from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. So this is called as diffusion. So and this diffusion is a passive transport mechanism. Diffusion does not require any energy. And I have already told you about facilitated diffusion sometime back in previous classes. So in facilitated diffusion, what happens? Some molecules, they will not be entering into the cytoplasm, or they cannot go out of the cytoplasm. So that is because the plasma membrane will not allow them. So plasma membrane is a semi-permeable membrane. It will not allow all the molecules. So that's why it has semi-permeability feature. So due to the semi-permeability feature, some molecules may not be allowed to go even across the concentration gradient. So in such situation, some other molecules will be helping them to go through the plasma membrane across the concentration gradient. So this is called as facilitated diffusion. We have seen this facilitated diffusion in digestion of carbohydrates, where after the digestion of carbohydrates is done, the glucose molecules will be absorbed into the blood with the help of sodium ion. So the sodium ion acts as a ligand, which helps the glucose molecules to go into the cytosol out of the cells, or from the lumen of the small intestine. The glucose molecules enter into the cytosol only with the help of ligand. The ligand here is the sodium ion. So if the diffusion is facilitated by other molecule, then it is called as facilitated diffusion. So this is about diffusion. So diffusion, what is the meaning of diffusion? Diffusion is nothing but movement of molecules or atoms from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. It occurs in all walks of the life, in water areas or in atmospheric or air conditions and in cellular or living organisms also. And another thing is osmosis. Here in osmosis also, something moves from high concentration to low concentration. But what is moving here is not the atoms, not the molecules of the solute, solute, but the solvent. The here in this thing, the solutes are moving. In diffusion, solutes are moving. Okay, here the solute is the coloring agent. The solvent is water. So here the solutes are moving from high region to low region. In osmosis, what is happening in osmosis? Not the solutes, but the solvent water molecules are moving from where they are high to from where they are low. So that means water is high, that means concentration is low. Concentration of the solute is low. So usually we say that osmosis is a process by which water molecules move from a low concentration area to high concentration area through a semi-permeable membrane. So osmosis is a process by which water molecules or solvent molecules move from a region of low concentration to high concentration through the semi-permeable membrane. Here the semi-permeable membranes usually will be plasma membrane-like membranes. So this is called as osmosis. So in osmosis, only water is moving from low concentration area to high concentration area. Low concentration means molecules are low, solute molecules are low, but water is high. So that's why water is moving from where it is high to where it is low. That's why we say it, usually say it, that osmosis is the process by which water molecules are solvent molecules. Not only water, in some cases it may be solvents also. Say for example, when we are talking about a liquid called benzene, we have mixed some molecules or some solutes in the benzene liquid. So in that case, benzene is the solvent and other molecules are the solutes. So every time the solvent must not be water only. Other type of chemicals also may be there, especially in chemical factories. But in biological things, water only acts as a solvent. So through from the solvent, water molecules move from low concentration area to high concentration area. This is the difference between these two things, osmosis and diffusion. So another thing is osmotic pressure. So osmotic pressure is the pressure which needs to be applied to the solution to prevent the inward flow of the water across the semi-permeable membrane. So this osmotic pressure is also called as the minimum pressure needed to nullify the osmosis. So we can understand this concept of osmotic pressure by looking at this, by understanding this picture. So here in this thing, this side is pure water, blue color, and this side is another solution. So in this solution, we have water solvent and some other molecules are there. So here the molecules are having high concentration. This green color one is having high concentration. This is having low concentration. And this yellow thing is a semi-permeable membrane. So as semi-permeable membrane is separating these two liquids, so and this is having low concentration. So water molecules move from this pure solvent to this green color area. So after some time, what happens? The height of this blue color column will be decreased and the height of the green color column will be increased. Till then, the concentration in the two regions is same. So here the process is called as osmosis. So due to this osmosis, what's happening? Water molecules are moving and entering into this thing. So this region, this green region is receiving more water molecules. The water molecules which enter into this green column, they are exerting some pressure onto this. So that is called as osmotic pressure. So that is the meaning of the osmotic pressure. So in other words, we can say that if we want to prevent the movement of the water molecules from this blue color area to green color area, so some pressure has to be applied. Okay, if we keep some pressure, if we put some pressure on this green color column, then that pressure will not allow the entry of these water molecules. So the pressure will be equal to the water molecules pressure, which are going into this thing. So when the water enters into this thing, the water entered into this green area, that will create some pressure on the green color region. So that pressure is called, that thing is called as osmotic pressure. So if we don't want to these water molecules to enter into this green column, then we have to apply the same amount of pressure which these water molecules are going to exert on this green column after entering into it. So in both ways, we can explain this osmotic pressure. So osmotic pressure is the pressure of the water molecules that entered into this liquid. Otherwise, we can say that osmotic pressure is the amount of pressure which is needed to prevent the water molecules entry into this thing. So that is the meaning of osmotic pressure. So osmotic pressure means if we are receiving more water into our cells, that means osmotic pressure inside our cells is increasing. Why? Because more water is entering into it, so that osmotic pressure also will be increased. So we have to do something to prevent that. So that means we have to send extra water out of the cells. Otherwise, cells will burst and cells will die. Another thing is, another concept is osmolality. So osmolality is an estimation of the osmolar concentration of plasma and is proportional to the number of particles per kilogram of solvent. So in a kilogram of solvent, how many number of molecules are there? So that is the measurement of this osmolality. And this osmolality is expressed as a milliosmoles per kilogram. So this milliosmoles per kilogram is the measurement or unit for this expression of this osmolality. And this is what used to when values are measured by the laboratory. So this osmolality value will be used in physiological experiments. And how we measure this thing, well, let us skip this. This is not much important. And coming to another concept, osmolarity. Earlier one is osmolality. This one is osmolarity. This osmolarity is also called as osmotic concentration. So osmotic concentration is also the amount of molecules concentration in water or plasma. But this is measured in milliosmoles per liter. Milli-OSMOL, so milliosmoles per liter. So earlier it was milliosmoles per kilogram, but it is milliosmoles per liter. So the previous one will be expressed in terms of per kilogram measurement. Here it is measured in per liter measurement. So the kilogram and liter. So usually 1 liter is equal to 1 kilogram. So that's why we can take the both values are same. So there is nothing difference in between these two values. Almost they will remain same. So why? Because only osmolality will be expressed as a milliosmoles per kilogram, and osmolarity will be expressed as milliosmoles per liter. So to calculate the osmolarity of a solvent as of a liquid, so how many particles are there in a liter solution? So that is the measurement of this osmolarity. So say for example, 1 million glucose molecules are there in 1 liter solution. Let us assume that. So let us assume that in 1 liter solution is having 1 million glucose molecules. Then we say that the osmolarity of that 1 liter liquid is that 1 osmolar glucose. So likewise, 1 million sodium chloride molecules are there. Then we call it as 2 osmoles sodium chloride. So why? Because here in two things, one sodium part is there, another part is chloride. So how many atoms are there will be measured in this osmolarity thing. So in magnesium chloride, we have 2 chloride ions and 1 magnesium ion. So 1 million magnesium chloride ions are there, if any, if in a liter solution, then the osmolarity will be 3 osmo mg chloride. So this is the way to measure the osmolarity of any liquid. And osmolarity differences, this is very, very important. From this slide onwards, we are entering into the original topic. So freshwater osmolarity, okay, or osmolality. So osmolarity only, a spelling mistake, osmolarity. So freshwater osmolarity will be equal to 1 to 10 milliosmoles per liter. Marine water osmolarity will be equal to 1070 milliosmoles per liter. Whereas the osmolarity of blood of human beings or any other mammals or any other major important animals, the osmolarity of the blood and all the liquids which are present inside the thing will be 280 or 295 milliosmoles per kilogram. We usually round off this value to the 300. So that's why only in the urine formation thing also we have seen that usually all liquids will have 300 milliosmoles per kilogram. Okay, so and but in the medullary region, in the center of the medullary region, the osmolarity will be osmolalities. Why? Because we are measuring in kilograms, so osmolality will be around 1200 like that. So you can remember that thing. So all the living organisms, in all living organisms, all the tissues will be having 280 to 295, or roughly we can say 300 milliosmoles per kilogram. if we call it as osmolality. If we are going to call this as osmolarity, then we call it as 300 milliosmoles per liter. So when you use kg, you have to use osmolality term. When you use liter, you have to use osmolarity term. That is the difference, and there is no big difference in between kilograms and liters. Both are same. So in this way, we can see that if an animal is living in fresh water, the liquids which are present inside the water are having 300 milliosmoles per liter, but outside fresh water is having maximum 10 milliosmoles per liter. Okay, so that's why we call it as that the animals are having highly concentrated liquids in their bodies than the outside water. So that's why all the animals are hyperosmotic to water or hypertonic, hyperosmotic or hypertonic to water. So water is hypotonic, animal liquids are hypertonic or hyperosmotic. Animals in marine water are hypoosmotic or hypotonic to water. Why? Because animals are having roughly 300 milliosmoles per liter, but marine water osmolarity is around 1000 milliosmoles per liter. So 300 is lower than the 1000. So that's why here the animals are hypotonic. Marine water is hypertonic. So that's why animals, freshwater animals are hyperosmotic to water. Marine animals are hypoosmotic to water. So this is the difference between these two, freshwater and marine water animals. So now let us understand how the water or molecules enter into our body. So this is a generalized body structure in which we have a respiratory thing. In our case, it is lungs. In aquatic animals, many aquatic animals, this will be gills. So through gills, oxygen enters into the body, blood, and carbon dioxide leaves the body. And this is the general. This is the this what gastrointestinal system or digestive system. Through digestive system also we drink water, we eat water. So through water also we receive water and nutrients, molecules, minerals into our body. So and from this digestive system also, digested food materials, water, salts will be absorbed into this blood. And in some cases, when we are facing diarrhea-like conditions, in some situations, then from blood also some materials will be secreted into this lumen of the digestive system, and all these materials will go out of the body through stools or fecal matter. So usually vomiting and this motions, both things are coupled together. When the patient is suffering both with these two symptoms, then the secretions will be high in such diseased persons. And in another thing is from blood also molecules will be entering into this nephrons or kidneys, and from kidneys waste materials, water, urea, and all those things will be sent out of the body in the form of urine. And some materials again they will be reabsorbed into this blood, and some materials will be secreted into urine. So filtration, reabsorption, and secretion, this part we have seen in previous class. And from blood to these tissues also, transport of materials from here to there to here occurs through this with the help of this what tissue fluid or interstitial fluid. So the gateways of osmosis is that the total body surface, okay, total body surface. From this total body surface also water molecules can enter into body, or from the digestive system also water molecules can enter into body. And in some cases in watery animals, through respiratory organs like gills also water enters into the body. So gateways for osmosis are digestive system, respiratory system in water animals, and the total body surface of the water animals also acts as a entry point of water into the body, and exit point of molecules out of the body. In other words, water also may go out of the body through this total body surface and gills, and salts also they may enter into the body in vice versa situation. So this is the gateways of osmosis. Now let us know that different osmotic problems. So when we have a cell in a hypotonic solution, like the cell is living in a fresh water. So fresh water, outside water is more, so that water enters into this cell, as plasma membrane cannot stop the entry of water. So you kindly remember one thing, that water cannot be stopped by anything. Any plasma membrane cannot stop the water from going from where water is high to from where water is low. So water moves from low concentration area to high concentration area. Otherwise, water moves from hypotonic area to hypertonic area. So as the animal is having, the cell is having 300 milliosmoles, outside fresh water is having 10 milliosmoles. So water undoubtedly goes into the cell. So when plenty of water comes into the cell, cell will swell and finally cell will be lyzed or it will be broken into pieces. That means cell will be dead in animal cases. In plant cases, this is different. The three lower diagrams are plant cells. I am not going to explain about this thing. So, and in isotonic solution, what's happening? The entry of water will be equal to the exit of water. So the quantity of water entering into cell will be equal to the amount of water going out of the cell. So the cell will be remain normal. So the size of the cell or structure of the cell will not be disturbed or it is not going to get damaged. Whereas if the cell is placed in hypertonic solution, what is happening here? As the outside seawater is having 1000 milliosmoles per liter, but the cell is having 300 milliosmoles. So water continuously go out of the cell. So this water going out of the cell, so that due to dehydration, the cell will shrink in size and finally it will be die. So why? Because water is very, very important for life. 70% of water or 60 to 70% of water must be there inside the cells. If the water content is decreased below that levels, then the animal will die due to dehydration process. That's why only in summer seasons, we usually say that due to this sunstroke, many people will be dying just because as they are losing lot of water content in the form of sweat from their body. So by this example, we can understand that how much is important to have enough quantity of water inside our cells. And now let us come to this original topic. What is osmoregulation? So osmoregulation is nothing but it is a physiological process. It occurs in all organisms, all living organisms, and this process is used to maintain water balance inside our cells. So all the organisms, they must maintain around 300 milliosmoles per liter water concentration. So if the concentration is going to decrease to that level, it has to increase them somehow. If the concentration of the liquids is going to increase somehow, they have to decrease that increased concentration. So that is called as osmoregulation. So osmoregulation is a physiological process by which water balance or osmotic concentration will be maintained at a steady state in the cells. And it is used to compensate for water loss, or it is used to avoid excess water gain. And also not only the water maintaining, it is not only it is maintaining the water thing. Osmoregulation is also maintaining the this water ions concentration, also salts concentration also will be maintained by this osmoregulation process. So that's why this osmoregulation is very, very important one. If osmoregulation is not there, water imbalance will occur inside the tissues, and the water imbalance, if the more water is there inside the cells, water cells will burst and they will die. If less water is there due to dehydration, animal will die. So that's why both the situations are not good for the animal. That's why the animal somehow it needs to maintain the 300 milliosmoles per liter concentration in it. That process is called as osmoregulation. So in maintaining this thing, not only water is maintained, along with water, concentration of minerals also is maintained. Why? Because the osmotic concentration is due to the presence of salts only. So not only just water is contributing to the osmotic concentration, the minerals which are dissolved in the water are contributing to the osmotic concentration. So that's why water and as well as the solvent or dissolved materials or dissolved salts concentration is also very, very important in maintaining osmoregulation. Now let us come to these osmotic problems of freshwater animals. What problems they will face? As I have already told, the freshwater fish, they are hypertonic to the surroundings, so that their blood and all those things, they will be receiving lot of water. So the water entering into the body in high quantities is the biggest problem. So to solve this problem, they have to lose that excess water in the form of urine. So while they are losing that excess water, they also lose some salts in the form of urine also. So they are gaining a lot of water into their bodies, as well as while urinating that excess water in the form of urine, they are also losing salt. So gaining water, losing salts is the biggest problem. So these are the two major problems that freshwater animals encounter. So, in solution to this two problems that can be seen in freshwater animals is that to solve the problem of large quantity of water entering into the body, they have chosen ammonia as a excretory product, so that ammonia can be excreted with the large amount of water entering into the body, so that the excess amount of water can be sent out of the body in the form of urine, and that's why they have chosen this ammonia as chief excretory product. So that's how they have solved that water problem. And what is the salt losing problem? So in the form of urine, they are also losing salt. So to gain that salt, they have special type of cells present on the this water gills. So these cells are called as chloride cells. So these chloride cells, what they will do, they will absorb the salts from the surrounding water, so that with the help of the chloride cells which are present on the gills, they are receiving the lost salts in the form of urine. So they have lost some salts in the form of urine. Now they are regaining that salts from the gills with the help of chloride cells. So this is how chloride cells in the gills are absorbing the lost salts, and kidneys, many large kidneys are there, and these large kidneys, they are not reabsorbing lot of water. Simply they are excreting the most water enter into the body. So the kidneys of these freshwater fishes will not be like the kidneys of our kidneys are very very complex kidneys, and they will retain a lot of water. Our kidneys will not allow water go out of the body, but the freshwater kidneys, they will have many large glomeruli, or many large nephrons. Many number of nephrons will be there, but those nephrons, they just simply filter the water, and most of the filtrate will be sent out of the body in dilute urine form. So in this diagram, we can see that these cells, they are having just simple, simple nephrons in their body. They are not having Henle loop. Why? Because if Henle loop is there, most of the water will be reabsorbed into the body. So that's why they do not have Henle loop in their cells. So with the help of these kidneys, they are losing the excess water. And with the cells, chloride cells which are present on the gills, they are reabsorbing the lost salts. So this is how they have solved their problem. So in this slide also, we can see that in hypoosmotic things, they are water gain problem. They are facing water gain problem and salt loss problem. So water gain is solved by excess large volume of dilute urine, so that water volume will be decreased, and the normal levels of osmotic concentrations will be maintained. And the salt loss, what is happening? So in the form of food also, they are gaining some salts, and in the by the help of chloride cells which are present on the gills also, they are absorbing salt. So by two ways they are gaining salt. So food will be automatically, undoubtedly, food will be having some salt. So in the form of food, they are getting some salts, and with chloride cells help also, they are getting, or they are gaining the lost salts. Okay, so this is how the freshwater fish have solved their problems. And coming to other animals cases, osmoregulation in amoeba, you have seen this in previous classes also. They are just unicellular organisms. So just through the simple diffusion process. So through simple diffusion process, water enters into their bodies. Why? Because our fresh water is having low concentration than the cytoplasm of the amoeba, so that water entering into this thing. So to send out the excess water, they are having this water contractile vacuoles. So these contractile vacuoles continuously, they will receive excess water, and they also will receive urea, ammonia, and other waste materials. So, and these contractile vacuoles, they come to the peripheral region of the cell, and they will fuse with this plasma membrane, and they burst, and by bursting, they will send this excess water out of the body. So with the help of contractile vacuoles, this amoeba, protozoans, poriferans, and many of the coelenterate also. In coelenterata, porifera, and protozoa. In freshwater, all freshwater animals of porifera, protozoa, and coelenterata. With the help of contractile vacuoles, they will solve this excess water problem. And they will receive this lost salts with the help of in the form of food materials. And in paramecium also, we know that it will be having two contractile vacuoles, one on the anterior side, another one on the posterior side. So both these anterior and posterior contractile vacuoles help these animals to lose the excess water that enters into the body. And with the help of this food capturing mechanism in the form of food, that is gaining the lost salts. And in other animals, coming to amphibians also, they are having a simple kidneys in which the nephrons are having simple structure. They are also not having this complex Henle loops in their structure, so that when they are present inside this water bodies, they will secrete ammonia, urine, and when they come on to this land, then they will secrete urea through their urine. So both ways they can perform this thing. So when they are in water, they send a lot of water in the form of urine outside of their body in the form of urine through these kidneys. And with the help of this food intake, they will gain the salts. And in the final slide, I want to discuss one thing, that the differences between excretion and osmoregulation. So excretion is the process by which metabolic waste materials, especially carbon dioxide, nitrogenous waste materials, and excess salts are eliminated from the body. And osmoregulation, what is the function of osmoregulation? Osmoregulation function is to maintain constant osmotic concentration in the body fluid. So osmoregulation is there to maintain constant or stable body fluid concentrations. So at any given time, all the times, the body fluid should be maintained at 300 milliosmoles per liter concentration. So that is the duty of this osmoregulation process. Excretion duty is to eliminate the waste materials like ammonia, urea, uric acid, carbon dioxide, extra waste materials, all those things. And this excretion occurs through exhalation, defecation, and urination process. And this osmoregulation occurs by endoosmosis and exoosmosis. If the water enters into the body, that is endoosmosis. If water is going outside the body, that is called as exoosmosis. And the organs of excretion are the kidneys and skin and respiratory system. Okay, kidneys, respiratory system, skin, and digestive system. Whereas the osmoregulatory organ is only kidney. So here, finally, what I want to tell you is that kidney, the main function of the kidney is to maintain osmoregulation. The first function of kidney is to do osmoregulation duty, but not the excretion duty. Okay. So in the last class also, we have seen that kidneys, what they are doing through this distal convoluted tubule and proximal convoluted tubule and Henle loop. Here in this diagram, it is not there Henle loop, but through all these structures, the kidneys are reabsorbing minerals, salts, and all those things. Why they are reabsorbing? Because they are reabsorbing all those materials to maintain osmoregulation or maintain constant level of osmotic concentration. So the kidney primarily it is doing the osmoregulation function. The excretion of ammonia or excretion of urea in the form of urine is the secondary function. So kidney's main function is osmoregulation. Kidney's secondary function is excretion. So that you have to remember. So kidney's main function is not excreting ammonia, urea, or uric acid, but to maintain osmoregulation or maintain osmotic concentrations at constant levels. So this is the importance of this kidneys. So with this, today's topic is over. In next class, let us discuss about osmoregulation in marine and brackish water animals. Till then, bye.